Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and it's time for part 2 of the Q&A, so let's go ahead and knock this out. Alright, first question. I switched from conventional deadlift to sumo on Ice Cream Fitness 2.0 program. Should I increase the volume since sumo deadlift needs less recovery, and if so, by how much? It's not enough of a difference to matter in this context. Meaning this program was written for people who have very limited time, very limited recovery, who need to just make quick noob gains. Okay, it's not intended to be run as a long-term program. And if anything, if you wanted to add more volume, adding more sumo would not be the way to go. I would add more good morning. I would add good mornings in. Like realistically, if you wanted to add some extra posterior chain work, good mornings. If you want to add more work beyond that, more pendlay rows. Okay, that's where I would add anything if you're going to add something. And the reason for that is that those are going to be far, far, far more productive than more deadlifting. And when we say that sumo and conventional, there's a slight difference in the amount of recovery on it, we're not talking about massive differences. It's not like you can come in and do double the amount of sumo that you can do versus conventional and generate the same amount of fatigue relative to your recovery. Okay, it's not like you can have large differences. So it's not double or anything crazy like that. It's a few percentages. And I couldn't give you an exact amount, 5%, 10%. Well, realistically, how do you even add 5 or 10% more volume to one set? You see the issue there? It's not really workable. And if you're just better at sumo, sumo's more comfortable. You're better structured for sumo, and you want to do sumo on this program, that's fine. But adding more deadlift volume because of that's not really going to help you. Deadlifts in general don't need a lot of training volume. I don't do a lot of training volume on deadlifts. And you see what I pulled, right? That's pretty normal. I know guys who very rarely pull who deadlift well over 600. I know guys who go a couple months at a time, sometimes without doing a single deadlift, and still walk in and deadlift over 600. Right? The reason the deadlift volume is low on every one of these programs. The deadlift volume is low for a reason. It's good to have some deadlifting in there. I think everyone should deadlift. We don't need to deadlift often or with a lot of volume. We just don't. There are better movements for building up the musculature that will actually improve your deadlift. So if anything, I would say add in some good mornings, add in some more rowing. That's all easy to recover from, and it'll do everything that you're planning on doing by adding more deadlifts in. You'll end up gaining more muscle, end up gaining more strength as a result of it. And that's, again, assuming that you have the flexibility to do that. I wrote the program originally because the first program was so grueling in terms of volume and recovery that a lot of people couldn't handle it. Okay, so if you wanted to bridge the gap, I would add that other stuff. All right, next question. We know that not enough sleep can negatively affect muscle gains. Is there such a thing as too much sleep can be a negative for gains if you sleep too much but are still able to get the required training food? There are problems with too much sleep, but in terms of muscle growth, like gaining muscle or recovery, absolutely not. In other words, if you were to be sleeping the bare minimum you need for basic recovery and you were to add 2 hours every day, you're not going to see any negatives to it. Right? In fact, you could sleep all day long. You could sleep a lot more. You can sleep a lot more, and it's not going to negatively affect. If anything, it might actually slightly help your muscle growth. I wouldn't necessarily count on it. You know, if you went from sleeping 8 hours a day to 11 or 12, it might actually help you gain a tiny amount more muscle. Not guaranteed, but it might. The problem with too much sleep is, number one, yeah, you may not be getting enough food. The real problem with too much sleep is that it affects motivation. It affects a lot of other things, right? It can affect your ability to be productive in general. And there's a point where I would say, okay, so you're going to sleep 12 hours a day. How much productivity do you have going on in your life? I mean, if you're sleeping 12 hours a day, chasing a hypothetical 0.5% extra muscle growth, You better be doing this as a professional. Like, you better be making a living doing this. You better be a professional athlete at that point. And you know what? A lot of professional athletes, it's not uncommon for some of them to get 10 hours of sleep. But the question I've got to ask is, if we're sleeping like this, how hard are you really training? I mean, are you training hard enough to justify this? Do you have a job? Do you go to school? I mean, what else is going on here to where you're exceeding these sort of thresholds? Is the fact that it will affect your motivation and the other things in your life. Number two, you know how hard it is to sleep that much? Are you taking something to help you sleep that much? Because if you're able to do that on your own without significant amount of sleep aids involved, and a lot of times your sleep aids produce higher quality sleep, by the way. So in theory, some stuff like melatonin, things like that, or getting a little bit of fructose pre-bedtime, some of these things actually improve sleep quality. So you actually get a little more quality for the hours you do get. Whereas in actual drugs reduce sleep quality. A lot of drugs, trazodone, things like that, they reduce sleep quality. They force you to sleep because they're sleep drugs, but they actually can reduce the quality of what you get. So are you doing this unassisted? And if you're able to sleep 12 hours a day without taking anything to help you do it, you may be suffering from something else. That can be a sign of serious depression and other stuff happening. Okay? So we could say the answer is no from a practicality perspective. It's not a problem. But in practice, it is a problem. And we're getting to kind of, in a way, silly hypotheticals because of that. And again, the only exception would be maybe a very serious professional athlete, like an elite professional athlete who doesn't have other work concerns or a life to worry about. It might be warranted to sleep 10 plus or even more than 10 hours, right? And there are athletes who do that. But their training workloads are nothing like what you're probably doing. I promise you, you're not doing this as a full-time serious profession, right? And at a certain point, you're wasting your life. All right, next question, and probably last question of the week. I shattered my clavicle twice this year and had to start doing reverse hack squats to stay in shape. I don't actually know what that is. Now I've switched over to reverse hack squats. I'm enjoying the gym more than ever. I never skip anymore, and I'm considering dropping the barbell squat for a couple of years. What do you make of this, Coach? Thanks. Here's the thing that I would ask. Did the doctor set everything right? Like, if you had the doctor go through and look at what's going on with the bone, because something like, again, you shattered your clavicle, and I'm going to assume you don't just mean a break. I'm going to assume when we say shatter, we mean multiple breaks. And I'm almost curious how you went about doing this, how this occurred, especially twice. Like, one thing, okay, you got in a car accident or something, industrial accident, but twice, that's serious. I would say if you're still getting pain from something like that and the bone is fully healed, you need to have the doctor take a look at that again. Something was not set correctly. Because usually broken bones, once everything's healed, and even if they have to pin it and stuff and everything's in place, it is oftentimes stronger than before you broke it. Okay, it's often stronger than before you broke it. So there's something going on. If you're having like a mobility issue up top with the barbell now, there's something going on possibly with some scar tissue. There could be something going on with the bone not having been set or pinned correctly. There's something else occurring. And I would almost say to that, because I don't know what a reverse hack squat is, I would say, look, if you're having certain types of shoulder issues or getting into position for your back squat, this is one of the reasons specialty bars exist, right? If you still want to be able to squat, and we should be able to squat, this is where investing in specialty bars is valuable. You can probably get away with using a cambered bar or a safety squat bar or both. And that might be a game changer for you. Or if it's even a shoulder position issue, a buffalo bar could be a game changer for you. So there's more than one solution to something like this. But I will say, if something's going on affecting your whole movement up there or pain or something, you need to have a professional relook at that and figure out what's going on, because that shouldn't be the case if everything is healed up correctly. So again, I'm gonna stress that you go back and talk to a medical professional and see if they can investigate what's actually occurring and see if there's some sort of physical therapy or something that the doctor or someone can do to alleviate this problem. All right, guys, well, that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.